I'm Dr. Sharon Milgram from the Office of Intramural Training and Education at the National Institutes of Health. This video focuses on the application process for PhD programs in the biomedical and behavioral sciences. We always encourage students to get lots of advice from very knowledgeable people, and what we did for you in this video was bring together the deans of admission from multiple schools across the country. Each of the speakers in the video today attended the 2014 NIH Graduate and Professional School Fair, and we asked each of them some questions about the graduate school admissions process. These are questions that many of our NIH postbacks and summer interns asked, and we thought that you would benefit from hearing their answers. So sit back and enjoy hearing from our colleagues from universities across the country.
One of the most important things that students probably don't realize when they're thinking about going to graduate school is really how long the process takes. And to do a good job, you really have to start early and do it in the with giving yourself enough time to do it successfully.
Learn how to become passionate about a particular subject. One critical aspect of every application is what is it that in you that really is going to propel you through the entire scientific career.
If you find the application confusing or have a part of the application where you're uncertain, most schools will provide contact information, and it's very appropriate to contact the school, ask your question, and be sure you understand what is really required of you when you fill out that application.
Well, we all have flaws, and chances are there's probably some flaw in your application. That's okay. What is important is that you take steps to compensate for that flaw and make sure that you emphasize those strengths or any potential explanations for the flaw in your personal statement. So for example, if you scored very low on the verbal portion of your GRE, in that case, you should pay special attention to having a well-crafted personal statement and also emphasize any experiences you might have that indicate that you have very good communication skills, such as your participation in writing a manuscript.
Another way to address that is to get one of your letter writers to do it for you. One of the faculty that you work with, someone from your college who knows you well and so on. And that way it's not coming like an excuse from you, but it's somebody who sees it from the outside and can really address it and describe what the reasons are why you have some hiccup on your transcript.
If you don't have the opportunity to retake courses or enroll in a post-bac or master's program, you could attempt to get more research experience, and you could prepare and do extremely well on the subject test, the GRE, as well as the general test, to show your ability to grasp knowledge and concepts and to apply that to the work that you propose to do in the PhD program.
We don't have a required minimum. The GREs are just one aspect that we look at. We do feel like they give an important indication of skills or gaps when it comes to quantitative and verbal skills, but clearly they're not the only thing that we look at.
I sort of see them as a threshold thing. If your GREs are very low, then that may seriously impact on your chances for admission. But once you get up to sort of mid-range, sort of 50th percentile and above, we then consider the applicant in a more holistic way where we really look at the other factors. So it is a factor, but it's not a determining factor in a major way.
Applicants should consider taking the GRE subject test, especially if they are concerned about other aspects of their application, whether it be the general GRE test score, their GPA, potentially a lack of research experience. The subject test can actually show your depth of knowledge and understanding in that area of science, which again could be beneficial and help give you an edge or at least leverage your candidacy when you are applying to a PhD program.
If you get a good score, it helps very much, but if you don't, then it can not be very helpful for your overall package. So the thing to do would be to take the practice test first and see how well you do.
A CV or resume is always a good tool to have on hand. If you were to share your CV or resume as you are going into graduate school, I would say the most important things to highlight would be your previous research experiences, including the scientific questions that were being asked. So I wouldn't focus totally on techniques that you know, because graduate schools will teach you many techniques. What we're more interested in learning about is, do you think about science, and what sorts of questions are you interested in? So include that in the summaries of the research experiences that you've been a part of. And I would say, as you go through graduate school, remember to continually update your CV, to add the new experiences that you've been involved with, new skills, new meetings that you've attended, places where you've presented your work. That will be a very useful way to keep track of all your accomplishments while you're a graduate student.
The CV should reflect basically the preparation for going into a graduate career. Obviously, contact information is important on a CV. It should be chronologically easy to follow so that we can tell what students were doing at each phase of their career and not have large gaps of time that aren't accounted for. Students should particularly focus on organizing their CVs so that the stuff that's important to graduate programs is very evident and comes at the beginning of their CV. So talk about their research experiences, their education, and clearly define publications or presentations out in separate sections so that it's very easy to see what the students have done that's relevant for graduate programs.
There are a number of things that we're looking for in the personal statement. One is, did the applicant read the instructions? So often in the instructions there are certain things that we're looking for the applicant to include in the personal statement, such as in the case of our program, an interest in working with particular faculty or in certain concentrations within the program.
A student's personal statement should reflect their personality and should reflect their enthusiasm and passion for science. And so the students should talk about what motivations they have for going to graduate programs, how did they get interested in science, what preparation they have. Basically focus a lot on the research experience aspect of their personal statement and give real solid examples of research that they've done, including the overarching goals and hypotheses of the research that they've done, and not just list techniques, but show that they are very well aware of the implications of their research and what it meant, what the results were.
It's a place where you can talk about particular research at a school that is of interest to you and why it's of interest to you. Not just, I'm interested in Dr. X, but I'm fascinated by the kinds of questions Dr. X is investigating because of a particular reason.
And the personal statement should reflect the work you've done to date, the courses that you've taken, what you hope to get out of the program you applied to, and potentially say something about the people or the groups within that program that actually focus on the science that you hope to engage in.
And if I can add one more thing, it's important that the applicant proofreads the personal statement. So if you're applying to program X, but you say, I've never wanted more than to attend program Y, that's probably not a good thing to do.
It's essential. I would say that previous research experience is probably the number one criterion for a successful application. There's a good rationale for this. Science is a difficult career, and it's a wonderful career. The rewards in terms of the satisfaction that one gets from discovery and influencing other people's thinking and improving human health are incredibly great. But science is difficult. Many experiments don't work, papers get rejected, grants get rejected. It's not easy. There are ups and downs. And the only way that you can really discover whether or not you want to take such a challenging career seriously is by gaining some experience before you apply to graduate school.
We're not looking for individuals who are necessarily a lab technician for 3 years. What we're looking actually is for an individual for 1 year to take a research project from beginning or conception to a publication. That's what is more important, taking ownership on their research, understanding their research.
Now, students sometimes ask, should I do a different project every summer and move around and get lots of different experiences? Should I stay with one kind of PI and one project for 2 or 3 years and maybe get a manuscript out of it? There is no absolute right answer to that. It's whatever's right for you, and however you can describe that, why you did it, what the rationale was, what you got out of it. Maybe you were undecided about different fields and therefore you tried different projects in different summer experiences to try to decide exactly what it was that you were interested in. Or maybe you just fell in love with a particular project and you really wanted to see it through and gain more independence through your long-term experience. All of those are very good reasons, and both of them will carry a lot of weight in your application.
The interview process is a really important part of the application process. That's where you get to go to a school and they can meet you in person and hear you talk about your science. And equally important, you get to look at that institution, the faculty, the students who attend there, the city that it's located in. So to prepare, you should definitely be ready to talk about every research experience that you've been a part of. So review those research experiences, look over your old posters, talk about it with some of your fellow students, and really be excited and ready to talk about the science that you've been a part of. The second thing you should do is look at faculty at the school that you will be visiting. Hopefully you will get a list of faculty that you'll be meeting before you arrive, and take a minute to look at the research that they're doing. Obviously, you can't become an expert on their research, but you might be able to come up with some questions that would be of interest to you to ask while you are there. Finally, when you're on an interview, listen and watch everything that happens. Look at the current students and try and decide if this is a peer group that you would fit well with. Look at the current students and see if they are happy in general, because if you go to that school, you will be part of that group in the years to come, and so you want to be sure that this is a place where you could be happy. Look at the faculty. How interested are they in talking to you? How interested are they in not just having people in the lab to do work, but interested in developing you as a research scientist? Last of all, be sure and ask questions. Ask questions about the nuts and bolts of the program, the number of hours, when our class is done, what the stipend is, but also ask questions about the science so that you can really gauge if that is an environment where you will be successful and happy.
To prepare for interviews, students can practice with others, so sort of get mock interviewed by faculty or their colleagues at their undergraduate institutions. I think they should reread their applications and make sure that they know what they said, because it could be several months between when they applied and when they actually go to interview. So they should be aware of what they stated in their application and not be surprised by having that stated back to them. And then basically be ready to show their enthusiasm and passion for the experience that they had, that they know what research they did, what the hypotheses were, what the results were and what it all meant, and be able to discuss with the faculty who are interviewing them as colleagues and getting excited about other people's research and asking questions about it.
If you want to know what program alumni are doing now, some institutions offer that information on their website, but if they don't, then make sure you contact the program director to find out what the students go on to do or what it's expected that the students will be able to do with a degree in that particular area. So another thing that you can do is contact faculty that you might be interested in working with who may be a potential thesis mentor and see what their students have gone on to do.
LinkedIn is one where I've been able to find a lot of our alumni. Usually that's a more professional rather than social site, and there are other sites that are more career oriented, and often, especially beginning scientists will be listed on those sites, and you can find alumni that way. Also, some of program websites sometimes contain information about alumni. So on our website, one of our websites, we have a listing for the last 10 or 15 years of every PhD thesis that has been published, so you can actually see the kind of work that people are doing and use that as a basis for searching their subsequent work. And we also have some pages that highlight a subset of individuals that we've been in touch with, and we can say something about their current activities.
If I could give one piece of advice to a prospective graduate student or one who is just beginning research in their lab or in their program, it is to be open. It's also to be vigilant. Read about what's happening not only in your field specifically, but also work that's related to it. Be sure you're aware of all the latest advances and the newest techniques that are being used to get the work done to help enhance your project in order to maybe better shape the problems that you're trying to address and to move things a little further along. It's going to be really important to be considered as more of an independent thinker who actually does consider problems globally as you move through graduate school and on into postdoctoral training and maybe a career as a researcher in academia, government, a nonprofit, and so on.
Moving into graduate school will be a challenging transition, both academically, research-wise, picking a lab, choosing a program that you want to be part of. There will be many challenges. And so the more that you build a network of support in your new graduate school amongst your fellow students, the faculty involved with your program, the administration involved with your program, the more resources you will have when you have questions or run into difficulties. So network, network, network. And remember, if you don't communicate what it is you need, people cannot help you.
Finding the right lab is really something that is very important for your success in the whole graduate program. And finding it, not only the mentor, but the kind of lab that it is. There can be ones with junior faculty, which spend a certain amount of time in the lab and are going to pay attention to you, or ones with senior faculty and usually have some sort of a hierarchy. You might not see that person on a daily basis, but those kind of labs give you the opportunity to develop your own independence as you stay there and learn from other people and then do it. So one of the things is you have to sort of know yourself and know what is best for you and which kind of lab you're going to really prosper in and be successful.
My advice to a graduate student who's just starting would be similar to the advice I would offer to applicants, which is basically to know yourself, stay positive, and remember that passion that you have for doing science, and that will help you get through some of the challenges and sacrifices that you'll encounter during your first year of graduate school and beyond.
It's the realization that graduate school is going to be very different than being an undergraduate. When you're an undergraduate student, your classes and extracurricular activities are part of your life, and they can almost be over at the end of the day. But graduate school is your entry into science, and science is a calling. It's not something you do from 9 till 5. It's something you're always engaged in.
Select your mentor very carefully. Not only in a research match, so obviously the investigator's research is important to the student, but also on a personality level, pick a mentor who you feel like you click with and whose style is one that you appreciate. So some mentors are more hands-on than others, some are gone most of the time, and it's up to the student to make sure that they match with the style of the mentor. It's a long process, it's a 4 to 5 year experience in their laboratories, and you have to make sure that you're going to be able to get along with this person for that long period of time.
I will seek advice, not just from the program director, but try to engage with some of the older students who are just graduating or who are going for a postdoc, and ask them, if you had to do it again here, what would you have done differently? Because you might be able to incorporate that particular advice.
When students start their graduate program, I think sometimes they're overwhelmed with all of the things that they have to do. The classwork, the research, the seminars. How do they handle this schedule? I would say when you start out your graduate program, don't become too worried about how things are going. If you feel you need help, get help. Don't feel that you should just kind of worry about something in isolation. Often students find that most of their classmates are worried about the same things they are, and they find that those who look to them as doing well and being really confident several years advanced, worried about many of the same things when they started. So being open, interacting, seeking support, there's often excellent support there, is a very good way to go. The second thing I would say is that being as proactive as possible in thinking about how you want your career to go and doing things that will allow you to test those ideas and prepare you for next steps are very important. Graduate school is about being proactive and setting goals and modifying goals as you go along.
The NIH Office of Intramural Training and Education offers career and professional development workshops for students at all training levels. To learn more about our workshops, to watch our online program, and to learn more about internships at the NIH, please visit www.training.nih.gov.